Conan the Barbarian isn't just another fantasy movie. It's a groundbreaking piece of pop culture history. The film carries a rich legacy that makes it all the more epic. Released in 1982, it starred a then-rising Arnold Schwarzenegger and brought to life the brutal, mystical world of Robert E. Howard's legendary hero. Directed by John Milius, the film combines swordplay and sorcery with striking visuals and a memorable score. But not all of the movie's secrets are widely known, not even to die-hard fans. So today on Marvelous Videos, we bring to you 30 insane facts about Conan the Barbarian. We're ready to jump on in, but before we do, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to the channel. It's a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Now, let's begin. What proto-Conan tales did Robert E. Howard write before Conan debuted? Before Conan made his first appearance in Weird Tales, Robert E. Howard experimented with a similar character in People of the Dark, first published in Strange Tales of Mystery and Terror. This story follows a man named John O'Brien who recollects a past life as a black-haired warrior named Conan of the Reivers, noting the first application of the name Conan by Howard. Now, if we dig deep into the history of words, we'll find that reeve is a word that has its roots in Old English. It means to devastate. Crom can be traced as an ancestor to Howard's Conan of Cimmerian. Although not specifically set in the Hyborian Age, this story talks about early elements like Crom, the Cimmerian god. Although this Conan was different in setting and depth, his emergence sealed the moment when Howard used the name Conan first time. In fact, the very first Conan tale was a result of a sheer rework by This Axe I Rule. It replaced the romantic subplot with supernatural elements. He was imagined to battle against elements that are fantastic mutated creatures. However, this was far from the Hyborian Age that Howard had actually thought of. The producers were interested in moving ahead with the project in association with the emerging special effects expert Ridley Scott. Eventually, they didn't see a future with this script. It's true that Stone's version of the script wasn't filmed and John Milius had rewritten much of the script. Nevertheless, Oliver Stone's work had a huge effect on the entire tone of the 1982 movie, eventually went on to become cult classic. Which earlier Howard Barbarian was reworked into the first official Conan story? Conan wasn't Howard's only barbarian hero. In fact, the first Conan tale, The Phoenix on the Sword, was a reworking of a rejected Kull the Conqueror story titled By This Axe I Rule. Originally written in 1927 and published in 1929, Kull was even fiercer than Conan in some respects. Howard submitted The Phoenix on the Sword to Weird Tales by adapting the unused Kull story, replacing the romantic subplot with supernatural elements to better suit the emerging sword and sorcery genre. This shift marked the birth of Conan as we know him and reflected Howard's evolving storytelling approach. The rework not only secured Conan's place in literary history, but also helped define a genre that would flourish for decades. Who drafted the very first Conan film script and never saw it shot? Not every script makes it to the screen. The first Conan the Barbarian film script was penned in 1978 by none other than Oliver Stone. His vision reimagined Conan in a post-apocalyptic world battling mutated creatures, far removed from Howard's original Hyborian Age. Although the producers initially considered moving forward with Stone's version, even contemplating bringing on Ridley Scott, the project took a different turn. John Milius eventually rewrote the script, and Stone's version was never filmed. Nevertheless, his work significantly influenced the tone of the 1982 film, which became a cult classic. Which Marvel editor quietly approved Conan's bi-monthly roller coaster? Stan Lee himself was the Marvel editor who quietly oversaw the bi-monthly to monthly shifts in Conan the Barbarian's comic release schedule. Writer and editor Roy Thomas was instrumental in developing the series and securing the license. After the first issue sold out, Lee suggested switching to a monthly release. However, when sales dipped after issue number 7, the series was cancelled, only to return as a bi-monthly publication with issue number 14. This back and forth reflected Lee's editorial pragmatism, focusing on market demand rather than fan fervor. While Thomas crafted the stories, it was Lee who determined their timing. Which Conan story resurfaced in a black and white magazine to dodge the comics code? The Savage Sword of Conan series debuted in 1974 with its first issue featuring an uncut adaptation of a previously censored tale, originally intended for savage tales. Freed from the restriction of the Comics Code Authority, the black and white magazine format allowed Roy Thomas and Barry Windsor Smith to present a more mature, authentic version of Howard's work. Savage Sword of Conan went on to run for 235 issues, offering more graphic and complex storytelling and showcasing Conan at his most visceral. In which 1984 Marvel team-up did Conan spring into modern New York? Conan's leap into modern-day New York occurred in What If number 13, published in 1979. The issue imagined a crossover between Conan and Spider-Man, transporting the barbarian from the Hyborian Age to present-day Manhattan. It explored how Conan would navigate a contemporary urban landscape, offering a fun, inventive take on the character. Later, in Marvel Team-Up number 79, Red Sonja, another character from Conan's world, also found herself in New York, teaming up with Spider-Man to battle the sorcerer Kulan Gath. Though Conan wasn't directly featured in that issue, it reflected Marvel's willingness to blend fantasy and superhero universes. Which artist hid his full Barry Windsor Smith credit under a single Barry Smith? Early in his career, Barry Windsor Smith was credited simply as Barry Smith. His breakout work for Marvel included X-Men number 53 in 1968, but it was his distinctive art on Conan the Barbarian from 1970 to 73 that earned him lasting recognition. As he matured artistically, Windsor Smith began incorporating influences from Romanticism and pre-Raphaelite art, adopting his full name professionally. His refined visual style helped shape the early identity of Marvel's Conan. Who painted one of the very first fully painted covers in comics for Savage Sword number 5? The legendary Boris Vallejo painted one of the earliest fully painted comic covers for Savage Sword of Conan number 5, released in the mid-1970s. The striking image of Conan being crucified stood out at a time when most covers were still illustrated in traditional line and color style. Vallejo's realistic and emotionally charged artwork marked a shift in fantasy illustration, elevating the medium and inspiring future artists like Earl Norem, Bob Larkin, and Joe Jusko, each of whom contributed to the series' dramatic visual legacy. Which Conan issue first named the Hyborian Age? The term Hyborian Age was immortalized by Robert E. Howard. The word Hyborian was crafted to provide a fictional background to the stories of Conan the Barbarian. It's not clearly mentioned in any of the issues of Conan the Barbarian. This age is a fictional age that's drawn between the sinking of Atlantis and the beginning of recorded history. Howard specifically chose to define the Hyborian Age as it served him with a backdrop to craft his Conan stories. This he did while taking inspiration from different mythologies and the vast ancient civilizations of the past. What non-supernatural trait made Conan a Marvel gamble? If you're a Marvel fan, then you know every Marvel superhero possesses some unique powers. Be it Spider-Man or Wolverine, you name it, everybody's got something that makes them a little more special than the average person. But here comes Conan, a superhero with no supernatural powers, yet he managed to carve out a place among the Marvel lineup. Conan was blessed with outstanding physical strength and sharp mental capability. These purely human traits made him a distinctive figure among Marvel superheroes. In both the comics and the film adaptations, Conan is portrayed as a well-built human whose strength and mental toughness allows him to outsmart enemies with ease. He can withstand harsh climates, remain unaffected by fatigue, and control hunger, making him perfectly suited to navigate treacherous landscapes. While most Marvel superheroes wear masks and wield powers granted by blessings or curses, Conan enters the scene as a barbarian armed with nothing but staunch self-belief and ancient fighting techniques. This marked a refreshing departure for Marvel, as Conan's humanity was elevated over the supernatural powers of his peers. Conan didn't need a curse or a lab accident to earn his place in the Marvel Universe. Instead, Marvel showed its audience that sheer character and willpower can be enough to become a superhero. In what ways do Conan's stories and visuals reflect their era's trends? There are noticeable differences between the Conan stories and how they were visually represented. The stories penned by Robert E. Howard reflected the societal norms and the struggles of the 1930s, most notably the Great Depression. In that context, Conan embodied raw individualism and self-reliance, values that resonated with readers facing real-life hardship. His journey from a barbarian to a king, built on hard work and inner belief, illustrated personal growth in a time of uncertainty. The tone of the comic narratives pays homage to Howard's original voice, maintaining a connection to the creator's vision. The 1982 movie Conan the Barbarian, starring Arnold Schwarzenegger, embraced the cinematic style of the 1980s, marked by striking visual effects, larger-than-life protagonists, and gritty fantasy settings. It emphasized heroic physicality and an unpolished world, aligning with the decade's fascination with epic fantasy adventures. Since its creation, Conan's portrayals have evolved with the artistic and cinematic language of each era, adapting to the tastes and trends of the time. What real-life injury made the final Conan climax more authentic? In the climactic scene of Conan the Barbarian, lead actor Arnold Schwarzenegger sustained a real-life injury while filming an intense battle sequence. He accidentally cut his hand open during the shoot, and filmmakers chose not to remove the footage. Instead, they included it in the final cut. This real injury added a raw, authentic layer to the scene, enhancing its realism. Such moments have helped the film attain cult status in cinema history. Did Conan ever battle Lovecraftian monsters? Conan the Barbarian did battle against monsters and creatures that highly resemble Lovecraftian horrors, but they weren't specifically mentioned as Lovecraftian horrors. As many fans are aware, Robert E. Howard and H.P. Lovecraft were contemporaries, yet they weren't competitors. They were correspondents. With a further depth of friendship, they would mail the drafts of their works to each other. With the growth of Lovecraft's series of mythology, the works of both friends started blending. Conan stories written by Howard often featured mythic elements such as serpent gods and ancient aliens. These served as a backdrop rather than a direct encounter. However, Phoenix on the Sword, Howard refers to a vast shadowy outline of a nameless Old One. This is a probable reference to the ancient Old Ones directly from the Lovecraft mythology. In The Shadow of Time, Lovecraft described a character by the name Crom as a Cimmerian chieftain. This serves as a direct reference to Conan's homeland and worshipping force. Thus, while Conan never comes face to face with the Lovecraftian monsters directly, many of his foes are inspired by Lovecraft's horror tales. Which famous Conan scene is censored in adaptations? Conan the Barbarian is one delightful watch for action fans and fans of Arnold Schwarzenegger alike. In this movie, the lead actor, Schwarzenegger, performed some of the action stunts without any doubles, but there are some scenes that were omitted from the film. One of the most iconic censored scenes in the film adaptation was the scene of crucifixion in 1934 novella, A Witch Shall Be Born. This scene, depicted in the comic, as Conan nailed to a cross in a desert. In this scene, Conan is seen enduring endless pain in addition to being dehydrated. To make the image more brutal, a vulture comes out and pecks at him. Conan, with his unbeatable courage, kills the bird by biting at its throat. In the 1982 film, Conan the Barbarian, this scene was adapted, but was toned down to keep in terms with the standards of the censor board. The film has the depiction of Conan being crucified, but omits the details of biting the dead vulture. Did Conan encounter the Submariner? With Marvel Comics crossovers, Conan did indeed encounter Namor the Submariner. Marvel has many a time merged their superhero world with that of Robert E. Howard's Hyborian Age. For example, in Marvel's 2020 miniseries, Conan, Battle for the Serpent Crown, Conan is transported from his original Hyborian Age and placed into the contemporary Marvel universe. It's Conan's hunt for the ancient Serpent Crown of Atlantis that makes him come face to face with the one who's ruling the Sunken Kingdom. In issue 4, just as Conan reaches the pre-cataclysmic ruins where the crown is hidden, he's confronted by Namor, declaring that even if Conan can locate the crown, Namor isn't going to let that treasure slip through his grasp. As mentioned earlier, Marvel has integrated Conan into several events and created alternative storylines, but Namor and Conan remain individual characters within their specific narratives. Undoubtedly, both characters share links to the ancient world and themes of mystics, but there's no specific comic storyline that talks about an interaction between Conan the Barbarian and the Submariner. Was a lost Conan story published decades later? Yes, a lost Conan story was published decades after the death of Robert E. Howard. It's titled The Black Stranger, and it was originally penned in the 1930s but remained unpublished during Howard's lifetime. This is one of the stories that had remained in a manuscript form. After Howard committed suicide, these scripts became forgotten tales. It was only in the 1950s and 60s that there was a revival of Howard's stories by L. Sprague de Camp. De Camp edited the story by revising it and published it in 1953. He gave a new name to the story, DeCamp called it the treasure of Tranikos. Not only did DeCamp alter the prose, he also replaced the theme of the story. This helped him build a more reasonable Conan chronology. The resurfacing and revival of the Black Stranger symbolizes how the Conan stories published posthumously helped keep the adventures of Conan alive. Readers and fans can still enjoy their favorite character out of the comics decades later than they were written. What are the sources of inspiration for the film Conan the Barbarian? John Milius, the writer-director of Conan the Barbarian, fused the Conan epic with elements of samurai and Japanese ghost tales. One of Milius's favorite movies was Quida, a classic anthology horror movie. Milius, being in awe of this film, drew deep inspiration to rewrite much of the Conan tale and also creating the world of Conan. And the inspirations for the movie don't end there. There's more to this story. Paintings of fantasy artist Frank Frazetta served as an inspiration, and various pictures in the film are based on the work of this artist. Along with those, the script of the movie was crafted from the grouping of Howard stories with the post-Howard Conan stories by L. Sprague de Camp and Lynn Carter's The Thing in the Crypt. So, our favorite Conan is a product of different mythologies coming together. Was Conan ever a pirate king? Conan actually never claims the title of pirate king in the stories written by Robert E. Howard. While Conan is shown as a pirate and a leader of the pirate team in the story, Queen of the Black Coast, where he is seen teaming up with the pirate queen Belit, he does not take the royal title. Conan's leadership is seen as a partnership of a pirate band rather than claiming the title of king or monarch. His kingship is over the land of Aquilonia, but it's different from the title of pirate king. Thus, in the stories, Conan never becomes a pirate king.
That belly-crawling wizard escaped us again!
Did Conan's animated series avoid on-screen deaths? Yes, the animated series Conan the Adventure, 1992, didn't showcase any on-screen deaths. This change was brought about to keep the storyline in tune with its original consumers, youngsters, mainly children. In contrast to the original Conan stories, which have a far darker and violent narrative, the cartoon depicts Conan's adventures by focusing on morality by diminishing the violence. For example, the cartoon series uses non-lethal ways in place of lethal fights and uses magical banishments rather than killing and bloodshed. In addition, the series also shows Conan refusing to strike an unarmed enemy, one who is already defeated. In the cartoon series, Conan is also shown to reject piracy and theft. Through this animated series, the character of Conan stresses on ethics and good manners over brutal killings. Which Conan story was inspired by Greek myth? Greek mythology is one of the oldest mythologies and has a vast treasure trove of lore. It's inspired generations across the world. Howard was one of those writers in awe of Greek mythology. He even used his knowledge of Greek myth to create one of his greatest stories for Conan. The Conan story that was inspired by Greek myth is The Frost Giant's Daughter. This story is a retelling of the Greek myth of Apollo and Daphne. Now, as the original myth goes, Daphne is pursued by Apollo and she transforms into a laurel tree. This transformation was a clever way of Daphne escaping Apollo. Howard reimagined and crafted this myth in the Conan world. This world featured a similar kind of chase and introduced supernatural elements. The setting was done in the Hyborian Age, the age in which Conan lived. The way Howard molded the Conan stories to adapt Greek myth shows his ability to stitch classic mythology into his fantasy world. This is a sheer example of mixing heroic adventure with the world of mythology. Did Conan fight a giant ape? Yup, in one of the stories, Conan does indeed fight a giant ape-like creature. It was in the story Rogues in the House that Conan faces Thak, the ape-like creature. He's not just a simple beast, he's more than that. Surprisingly, this ape possesses a trace of human intelligence and was nurtured by the wizard Nabonidus since infancy. Thak was a bodyguard to the wizard, but Thak had imprisoned Nabonidus and imitated his role. Conan finally confronts and defeats Thak in a gruesome battle. He understands that Thak was not just a beast, but also a worthy opponent, stating, "I have slain a man tonight, not a beast." This story is remarkable for the portrayal of Thak as a character with deeper shades than just a monster, which helped in reflecting Howard's shaded approach to animal creatures. It's true that Conan has battled against different ape-like creatures in the stories, but Thak is the most iconic giant ape figure in the original version of Conan. Did Conan spark a sword and sorcery craze? The character Conan, created by Robert E. Howard at the beginning of the 1930s, significantly contributed to the sword and sorcery genre. This was particularly achieved through pulp stories penned by Howard in the 1930s and a reemergence in the 1960s and 70s. Howard laid the foundation for the subgenre. a mix of gallantry, dark magic, and fearless adventure set in a mythical world. It's true that the sword and sorcery tales existed before Howard's times, but coming in of Howard's pen, this genre was introduced in its modern form. The 1982 movie Conan the Barbarian, featuring Arnold Schwarzenegger, further glorified this genre, thus influencing later movies, magazines, and comics. Thus, Conan became a torchbearer for the sword and sorcery genre to the entire world. Did Conan meet an alien in the Hyborian Age? Yup, Conan came face to face with an alien in the Hyborian Age. In the story, The Tower of the Elephant, a young Conan on an adventure to steal a priceless jewel comes across an alien who is kept prisoner named Yag Kosha. This alien is described as having a humanoid body and has an elephant-like head. It's a creature from the planet Yag. This alien was said to be worshipped in the form of a god in ancient times. This alien was enslaved by the magician Yara. The alien's true motive as a visitor from another world comes to the forefront when it asks Conan to slay it. Through the death of the alien, he achieved a cosmic revenge over Yara. Other than this event, there is no record of Conan fighting against alien forces. Was a Conan comic banned for violence? No comic covering the adventures of Conan was banned for showcasing violence, but that's not all. The series faced challenges from censor boards due to the strict regulations of the Comics Code Authority initial years of publication. Conan the Barbarian came out for the first time in 1970. The CCA still declared strict rules keeping extreme violence, bloodshed, carnal content out of comics. The Conan comics often widened these limits. This led to continuous editing and resketching to keep in terms with the code. Scenes depicting intense violence were altered rather than showcasing them explicitly, and certain artwork was redone to lessen the sexual pictures or graphics. Despite the order of the CCA, restrictions were loosened in the year 1971. This allowed several adult themes like horror and the sword and sorcery elements to reappear in comics. The Savage Sword of Conan magazine was released in 1974, diverted the code. This enabled further darker and bolder storytelling possibilities. Did Conan become a king by killing a tyrant? Yes, Conan did become a king by killing a tyrant. If one follows the chronology of Howard's tales, it can be found that Conan's path unfolds from gypsy wanderer, barbarian king, and eventually dominant ruler. Eventually, Conan becomes the ruler of Aquilonia. Aquilonia is one of the most distinguished kingdoms of the Hyborian Age. Conan's ascension to kingship is demarcated by different battles against the bad rulers and despots. It's the might of Conan's strength and a desire for justice that brings him victory over oppressive opponents. Howard does not provide any details of that uprising. The later writers, such as L. Sprague de Camp and Lynn Carter, provide details in their novel Conan the Liberator, 1979. In this novel, the writers explain that Conan led an extended military crusade against the crazy and tyrannical king Numadides. He choked the king to death and claimed his crown. Were non-Conan stories turned into Conan tales? The answer is yes. After the demise of Robert E. Howard when he was only 30 years old, many of the non-Conan tales were molded into Conan tales. L. Sprague de Camp and later on Lynn Carter took upon themselves to carry on the legacy of the barbarian king. De Camp sought a very direct way to do this. He changed the names of the characters, replaced firearms with swords and bows, topped it up with a hint of supernatural elements. One such redone work is Hawks over Egypt was changed to Hawks over Shem, and also the pirate story, Swords of the Red Brotherhood, rewritten as The Treasure of Tranikos. Not to forget that the second one was a rework of an earlier draft, The Black Stranger. These new stories helped keep the Conan saga alive. Did Conan battle zombies in a video game? The answer is yes. Yes, Conan has fought against zombies in video games. Conan Exiles is one such video game where Conan kicks a lot of butt, in particular, zombies. The setting of the game is the same as the world of Conan as created by Howard, the infamous Hyborian Age. Here, players are faced with challenges to survive different combative foes. This, of course, includes creatures that are undead. The game is also home to fantastical beings like dragons and dinosaurs. Players must use their resources intelligently to carve a way out from the enemies. In addition, there are references to zombie builds and zombie armies in videos related to Conan Exiles, suggesting that zombies and creatures defying death are part of the combat scene. Was there ever a female Conan? It's natural to want to gender swap a powerful character, but sorry ladies, We didn't want to disappoint you, but a female version of Conan was never built upon. But the Conan world does feature a number of eminent female characters who are no less warriors than Conan. Ones that stand out among them are Belit and the very famous Valeria, also known for being the love interest of Conan. She's a savage pirate and a supporter of Conan. Also, another name that can't be missed is Red Sonja. She's an impeccable swordswoman who is often teamed up beside Conan in different stories. These women are skilled in their own ways and serve as allies or foes for Conan, rather than just being female versions of the hero. Thus, a female Conan doesn't exist. Rather, what the mythos has is a number of female characters made their own distinctive marks. Did the Conan movie use real animal carcasses? Yes. The 1982 classic Conan the Barbarian did use actual animal carcasses as part of the special effects. For example, animal blood collected from slaughterhouses was poured on the floors to fill pools of human blood during the action sequences. Feathers and wings of a mechanical prop were procured from a vulture given up the ghost in order to heighten the realism in the scenes Conan engages with the birds. The American Humane Association even flagged the movie for the cruelty that took place while filming the movie. Did Conan time travel to modern America? In the original script created by Howard, Conan never travels to modern America. He doesn't travel to any contemporary land either. Adventures are strictly designed to fit into the Hyborian Age only. The original stories stand by this historical setting created by the author. However, later versions, including comic books or stories such as What If, taking the liberty to explore unapproved scenarios, Conan appears in modern times. Fans have often wondered what Conan might look like in a modern setting. However, the Hyborian Age is an essential part of the original raw version, Conan the Barbarian. Marvelous verdict! So that's all we got for you. 30 insane facts about Conan the Barbarian. Conan's not just another fighter hero who mesmerizes viewers, he's a true hero in his own sense. Relying on primitive strength to teaming up with Marvel superheroes, Conan the Barbarian is the perfect blend of ancient and contemporary. We hope you enjoyed this video. Let us know in the comments if we missed out on any amazing facts about Conan and what attracted you to his film. We'll see you next time with more interesting character analyses, but for now, thanks for watching, stay safe out there, and have a marvelous day.